Hello there, it's Peter Ryan from Fluent Leadership, and I'm joined today by Alicia Lykos from the Red Wolf Group. Good morning, Alicia.
Good morning, Peter. Thank you for having me.
Oh, look, thanks for being here. I've been really looking forward to this conversation, actually, because I've had contact with you previously and understand a little bit about your services and the talent optimization offering that you have. Could you quickly give us a bit of an introduction about yourself and also about the Red Wolf Group service offerings as well?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, Red Wolf Group I sort of founded the business about 4 years ago, just after I left corporate world when I had 2 kids very close together and wanted to keep working. So I founded the business really wanting to help organizations empower their workplaces. I think the one thing over my 15-year career in HR was I just felt like I was always doing a lot of the work for the managers. It was going and having conversations with their people on their behalf and so much hand holding with managers. And what I wanted to do was really, how do I shift this for the long term? How do we give managers the skills to actually feel confident in how to lead their people, enable their teams, and ultimately drive high performance for the long term and not need hand holding? So one of the big things I did about 2 years ago was become a PI certified partner. Now, I'd used predictive index at previous companies and just loved it in terms of it being able to give me all this great data and insight about our people and teams and recruiting the right people in right roles. And I just found myself always recommending it to all my clients. So I went on the wonderful journey to become a certified partner. So now really that's my core focus is how do we optimize your talent and use the talent optimization model, but have it be very data driven and not use our gut instinct all the time. Because I think that as executives and managers, we're relying on our gut instinct of how we think we should have this conversation or what we think is the right thing versus, well, let's bring some data into the conversation and let's really use that and leverage it as a part of the conversation. And predictive index gives you that very quickly, but with a huge amount of insight behind it.
Yeah. And having done the assessment and having used the actual information that comes out of the assessment across teams and across management groups, I absolutely support that as well. So you talk about empowering leaders, and I think that's absolutely important, putting the tools and the information in their hands, as opposed to some assessment tools which seem to be quite complex and convoluted and have seemingly dozens and dozens and dozens of different options that you have to get your head around. It is about that empowering leaders and putting that information in a consumable way in their hands, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think managers, they want to be able to do it for themselves. They don't want to have to ring a consultant to say, can you explain this 25-page report to me? And what should I do? And how should I do it? I mean, my whole model is built around how do we give you the tools? And that's the software, that's predictive index. We give you access to the assessments and the reports, and they're all very easy to understand. I mean, you do not need to have some psychology degree to pull out a management guide. It's 1 page. And then we provide you with training. So we have 1 and 2 day training programs, which, I've had CEOs say this is the best, leadership program I've ever been on, because finally I actually understand what drives and motivates my people. Yeah. And I know how complex it is. It's not one size fits all approach. It's actually, I need to adapt myself for my entire workforce. And it shows you how to do that. So the whole model is built around empowerment. It's not about me as a consultant coming in and saying, let me go and have that conversation for you. It's about how do I educate you and put the tools in your hands so you can go away and do it for yourself. Yes, we will support you along the way. But ultimately it's about making you successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some great insights to be gained from that whole self-awareness activity and understanding how not only your preferences, but also potentially how you can be perceived in the business, and also how you respond in trying circumstances and under pressure. And I think that sort of level of insight actually can change behaviours and change your effectiveness in the workplace.
Yeah, look, I think absolutely. I've sat, in training with some managers and they'll be saying, but I don't agree with that. I don't agree with my report. I'm not direct and authoritative. I'm not task orientated. And they get their back up. Well, everybody in this room who works with you, what do you think?
Yeah.
And they'll all validate that is how that person turns up to work. That's that self-awareness bit that you just said, whether you acknowledge it or not, that's what's going on. You're turning up to work and you're being direct and authoritative and to the point. And that's also some of the great qualities you have, but you've got to own it. You've really got to own your profile and what that information tells us, because ultimately you're the one that answered your assessment as well. Like, you were attracted to certain words.
Yeah.
So I always say you've got to really reflect on the information as well. Some people go, yep, that's me, to a T, 100%, and other people struggle with it a little bit. But after a little bit of deep diving and discovery, I think you ultimately get to the point where it's like, yep, okay, I got to own that. Like, I have a really, really extremely low formality part in my profile. So it says highly disorganized, fast-paced, rushed. Let's be honest, that's true. And I have to put a lot of measures in place. People go, oh, Alicia, you're very organized. I have to put those measures in place because I'm naturally not.
Yeah.
So I've learned to cope with those things, but it's only through being very hyper aware of those things that I've been able to put the right measures in place.
Yeah, and something Richard Branson famously says too is sort of understand your strengths and weaknesses, and then recruit around those weaknesses to fill the gaps. And it's what he's done, obviously, very successfully, but with that mentality and that approach. Yeah. So with the obviously, getting that sort of self-insight is really important. But are there any sort of hacks that you could maybe suggest in sort of understanding other people's preferences? Understanding how they like to be communicated to, receive information, or sort of even sort of how often you need to sort of touch base and share information with them.
Yeah, look, I think there's so much power in having a great conversation with someone as a manager or even as peer-to-peer, and just sitting down with that person. I mean, nowadays during COVID-19, it's probably going to be over Zoom, but just sitting down and just asking them a range of questions and being very thoughtful in how you ask those questions, and finding questions that will trigger some deeper thinking. Often we call it the GROW model. It's a very famous model called GROW, which is Coaching for Performance by Sir John Whitmore. So his methodology is goal, reality, options, will. So often we use that methodology when we're asking questions. So how can we work most effectively together? What drives you? What motivates you? How do you want to make sure that we can both deliver on this project? Like, if you're working with someone, what role can you play? What can I play? Where are my strengths? What are the parts of your job you don't enjoy doing? What are the things you always seem to have on the bottom of your to-do list? You're always pushing them down. Is it the big projects or is it the little nitty-gritty detail? What do you postpone? What do you love doing? What do you wake up thinking about? Just sitting down and thinking, what questions can I ask that person to trigger some thinking? And to have a powerful conversation with someone, because at the end of the day, those connections are really important when you're working with others about understanding that other person.
Oh yeah, and it builds trust. When you show that you actually are able to understand others, it builds that connection and that relationship, doesn't it? Very good, very good. So there's all sorts of layers that sit on top of this, and you mentioned, we're speaking in the midst of the COVID-19 sort of remote work revolution that we're going through, and it is a revolution. Hasn't been an evolution, has it? And there's generational sort of diversity, there's cultural diversity, and there's also this sort of disconnected space. So I suppose my point being that it's even more important now to understand the importance of communication preferences and behavioural preferences than it has ever been before.
And I think we we don't have the time anymore to spend 6 months getting to know someone. Like, I know a lot of companies actually still are onboarding people remotely from home. Can you imagine how hard that would be for not only that new person, but
Yeah.
for that manager and for the team? Okay, you've never actually physically met face to face. You're not sitting in on that sort of dynamic and chatter that normally happens when you're physically in the office with people. We don't have 6 months to work you out. And that's why I think the power of these assessments really help people understand each other very quickly. If I can get to know you within 5 minutes in terms of what drives you, what motivates you, obviously you're a much broader person than just your results, but at least I can understand how you like to work.
Yeah.
Whether you like time to think things through before a meeting, or whether you like to think on the fly and talk things out and verbalize and draw things up, or you're a big picture person or you're a detail person. Like, I need to know your preferences if I'm going to manage you so that I can bring the best out in you.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose I'm in a privileged position in that I've not only been through the assessment, but I've worked in a team across a management team that have all been through the assessment, and understanding each other's preferences and understanding the way in which we change our approach to different individuals, or even diversify our approach within teams to ensure that we're meeting the requirements or the preferences of those individuals has been really quite amazing. And also seeing what the online tool can do and empowering the managers to actually give them access to that sort of level of information. And spoke about the management guide and coaching guide, and being able to have those quick reference guides for individuals to optimize that performance and optimize that communication. So can you talk through just a little bit about the website and what you've got as far as sort of online tools? And I know there's actually a free assessment that you're offering as well.
Yeah, look, on our website, if you go to redwolfgroup.com.au, you can actually take the behavioural assessment for free. It only takes, we say, 5 to 6 minutes for you to do it. And once you complete it, you'll get an email from me that'll say, hi, how are you? Do you want to book a call? And we book a 15-minute Zoom. It's exactly like this. And I basically say, okay, Peter, let me tell you about how you like to work. And I run through it in a quick 10, 15-minute version. And we get an opportunity to chat and talk it through. How does that feel with you? How does it resonate? And then I send you through the report. So then you can have a look at it, you can reflect on it, and I'll ask you a series of questions like, how are you going to use this information? What are you going to do differently tomorrow? So just some sort of coaching questions. And ultimately, so that you can have a really powerful self-awareness opportunity. Because that's ultimately what this is about giving people that self-awareness of how they turn up to work. Obviously, I'm not going to offer that to 100 people in the same organization. But if you're watching this and going, oh, I'm really interested in what my results might tell me, check out the website, do it. It'll take 5 minutes. With me is 15 minutes. It'll be incredibly insightful.
Yeah, and I think it's a good lead into that self-awareness piece. And usually in organisations, you have to wait for the business to invest, tens of thousands of dollars and the 2-day retreat and all of that palaver to get this sort of insight and to get it debriefed. And I think that's the most important thing, is to get it debriefed and get some of those insights explained. But having that sort of first insight is really good, but it should whet your appetite for what could be, great insights across the entire team as well.
Yeah, and I would say that self-awareness is only like one small part of what you can really do with it. Yeah. And I think you alluded to it earlier with you've been on management teams and in businesses where they've done it across the whole business. That's where, the tires hit the road, because then it's about not only what am I like to work with, and that's really helpful for me, but what do you like to work with? Now I've got to work with Peter and all these other people. What are their profiles? How do they like to work? What are our strengths when we have a look at our team dynamics? What are the things we're going to absolutely accelerate on? Where are the gaps for us as a team? What don't we have in this team makeup?
Yeah.
And how can we make up for that? Like, what do we need to do strategically, and maybe bring some other people into the group, because we actually need to be honest and say we don't probably have the capability in this room. And that self-awareness of other people as well, right? Let me understand you. the awareness of others piece is so powerful.
I think it is so powerful, and it encourages you to challenge yourself in your own biases as well. I mean, I think too often we formulate project teams or working groups with people that are far too similar or that we're potentially comfortable with. And getting those sorts of insights really encourages you to challenge your own thinking and to bring those people along that are going to, maybe challenge the paradigm, or ask the right questions, or provide different insights into the team. So that's very powerful, I think.
Yeah, and I think people often say to me when they look at their team dynamics, we visualize it in this circle, it looks like a wheel. People always say to me, what's the perfect team makeup? Well, there is no perfect team makeup. It's more, what is the team being allocated and tasked to doing? Like, what is the direction of the team? Is this team really focused on efficiency and excellence, and making sure that we can increase, delivery of this manufacturing product through, minimal wastage? Or are we out developing something radically new that's never been done before? Are we out building new ventures? Are we meeting new people? Like, what is the focus of the team? And then we look at, does the team have the right makeup for that? And what should people be focusing on based on their preferences? So, I've worked in a lot of IT companies like you, and often when we've got development teams, they usually are very stable type of people who are very consistent, patient, steady, a little bit more introspective, low risk. And they might be having to work on something that's radically new, and they've got to go out and influence new stakeholders and maybe do some research with the client and spend more time building relationships. Well, we need someone in the team that can be that voice. So who is the right person, and how do we stretch people across into that area? But it's really hard to do that if you're just running on your gut instinct. It is almost impossible. I mean, it can be done. That's how most businesses are run. But I'd say, how effective has it been for you? And what's your hit to miss ratio of those things?
Exactly.
It hasn't worked out. Yeah.
Exactly. But it does. It brings the science, brings the data to it, and enables you to actually plan for those sorts of approaches. So absolutely. So that's fantastic. And I think for individuals to get that insight and to have time with you is just a fantastic offer. So I'll make sure I have that website link there. So thank you very much for your time today. I know you're busy running a lot of webinars and insights around ensuring that we've got the right ability to engage and connect and communicate with, and still get the right levels of performance out of virtual teams. So I know you're very busy doing that at the moment. So thank you again for your time, and we'll chat again soon.
Thank you for having me, Peter. It's been great. Thank you.